from Fatal Tragedy by Dream Theater has got to be one of the hardest solos that I've ever taken on. And it doesn't help that the official transcription of the song and the album has a few wrong notes in it. And I know that it says it's been edited by John Petrucci, but, you know, misprints happen, miscommunications happen. I don't know what the process looked like. But ultimately, if you ever bought the book and dove into the transcription, you know that it gets you most of the way there, but there are a couple spots where it's like, what the heck do I do right now? Now, I gotta say, 18-year-old Bill would have loved this lesson. That's exactly who I am making this lesson for. The person that maybe has heard the song, knows the song, maybe watched the live DVDs or the live performances on YouTube, but never had anyone to actually break down this solo phrase by phrase. And that's exactly, by the way, how I think you should approach a solo like this, is learning it phrase by phrase and being very, very clear on what those phrases are. And especially in this song, being very, very mindful of the rhythm, because Petrucci is mixing all sorts of rhythm. I mean, he's obviously, you know, being a speed demon about it, but, you know, having a leg up on the rhythms and having a very clear idea of what the rhythms are is going to help you immensely with mastering the solo. Now, of course, as with any John Petrucci solo, you want to play it slow and practice with a metronome to begin with, and really take the time. There's a little pun for you, a little Dream Theater pun. Take the time to really learn the phrase, practice slowly, and, you know, like many John Petrucci solos, you're going to find that it's going to seem impossible at first, but the more that you practice it, get it in your DNA, all of a sudden it's going to click at some point, and you're going to be nailing it. All right, so we start with this repeating pattern. Right, straight ahead, 6 couplets. We're going to do that 3 times. And we're going to start moving it up. We're going to move to... And I don't know about you, but that's a pretty big stretch for me, especially at the speed that it gets to. But with a little slow practice, you'll get it under your fingers. All right, so now we're up an octave, so we've got... And we're going to start a pattern where we basically ascend the fretboard, but we're always bouncing between those first 6 notes and moving it on up. And by the way, this is one spot where I think the official transcription was wrong. I think it had like in the middle of the phrase, it kind of jumped up a little bit. That never made any sense to me. So on the transcription that I'm including in the lesson, I'm basically just doing what I'm pretty sure he does, making it more like... I think that makes way more sense, and I'm pretty sure that's what he's doing. So again, we're moving it all the way up, so by the time we get to... Alright, so the next 2 bars are basically based on an F-sharp Phrygian dominant scale, which I don't really have time to get into the theory behind it, but basically it's a very exotic sounding scale. Alright, so these next couple of bars kind of threw me for a loop originally, because I could tell he was pulling off, but it was a very strange rhythm, you know, nailing the rhythm exactly. And basically what it is, if you were to use a slowdown or app-like capo, which by the way, I use that very much on this solo and many other Petrucci solos, you can hear that it's almost like a pickup. Da-da-da-dun, 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 da-da-da-dun. Alright, so these next 3 bars are kind of a cool little riff. Now, the trickiest part of this to me, honestly, is that very last riff. And to be honest, I think he picks it like that. But honestly, I will legato that from time to time, just depending on how confident I feel in it. Ba-dee-da-da-da-dum. 3, 4. whatever. You have to play around with that and kind of find what works for you. Again, I think he actually picks it, so it's worth trying that and working on that. But again, I'm giving you a little helpful hint if it's just not gelling for you, and especially going into the next riff, that's where it really gets tricky and can be helpful to legato it. Now, the only other part that I would mention about this is really watch the picking patterns, because it really does get tricky and kind of trip you up. So you've really got to practice this slow. It almost seems like it's like the easiest part of the whole solo, but it's not. It can really trip you up if you're not careful. Right there, see, right there. It's that fourth movement right there with your third finger. You're going back and forth between those notes. A good solution for that is to not use a bar and use individual fingers. Like even just stretching your second finger to me is easier than getting tripped up on a bar like that. Alright, so honestly, this next part is so difficult rhythmically. I can tell you that the pattern is very simple. It's, again, a very John Petrucci-ism. So it's literally the same motif. So really the practice to me is mainly in just solidifying what the exact pattern is and really working that out. So it's almost like a hemioil, like 1, 2, 3, 4. Bum 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 bum. I don't know. I think that's like a 2/3 or something. I'm not sure. Maybe other theoricians can figure that out But if you think about it like that, bum 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 bum, that'll hopefully help your phrasing, right? And then it's almost a little bit of inflecting the actual pattern over that. It's tricky, man. I mean, the best thing that I can recommend for this one is to just play along to it and really try to match his phrasing. And again, if you have a tool like Capo where you can drop in the audio file, slow it down, really nail it like that. All right, so for this next part, we're basically doing it's back to 16 notes, but we're basically doing a 3 pattern. So like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And notice that I'm actually switching fingers on the 9th fret for that second set of 3. That helps me kind of help subdivide, and you're going to have to change fingers anyway for that position change. So that's a good spot to me to do it. Now, the last part of that bar, though, is that there's 2 groups of 2. So we have 4 groups of 3, 2 groups of 2. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. And again, I'm using my first finger to start that last group of 2. So. And that's tricky. You're going to have to get used to that as the band is playing and everything, but it is possible with a little practice. So. Now we do start a similar pattern right here. Again, it's 4 groups of 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Then 2 groups of 2. All right, so for this next phrase, this is where I think the transcription didn't necessarily have a wrong note, but it had a misplaced note or like a misfingered note, because we've got this. Now right here, the official tab said to go down here, and not that you can't do that, but it just takes you right out of position sort of unnecessarily, and I just don't really see John Petrucci doing that. As opposed to doing right there and just using your pinky that's already in position. Like, to me, that's way easier and just makes more sense. So. Now that, and if you're someone like me who can read rhythm, you'll see the rhythm on the official transcription if you own it, and you'll look at it and go like, what the heck is going on? I think he's basically treating it more or less like triplets or sextuplets, but he is cramming it into a pretty small spacer, so I think he's probably taking some liberty of just sort of squeezing that together, and whatever the rhythm technically ends up being, I think he's treating it like you can hear that da 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 da, or da 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 da. You know, it's a triplet type of feel. So again, I think the best thing you can do here is really get the pattern itself under your fingers, really get it solid, play with the metronome, and then slowly speed it up. And then at a certain point, play along to the album. And again, if you've got capo to slow it down a little bit, or some other tool to slow it down, you can really kind of start practicing that, smushing it together and kind of getting it really dialed in. But that's what I would say to start with. Start with it as triplets. All right, so this next part is really interesting. It actually is, I think, sounds harder than it actually is. I mean, you have to have some familiarity with sweep picking, and if not, then here we go, throwing you in the deep end. But basically all he's doing is doing a sweep arpeggio on an F sharp chord. Right? It's your, but moved up an octave. Right? And then he's basically sliding up and coming down another F sharp inversion. So he's just doing. And I think he's sliding down and finishing it off like that. Just again, part of an F sharp arpeggio. Alright, so this next part should be a lot easier than it actually is. It's basically just an E minor, 3-note per string, standard John Petrucci type of lick. Right on up. But it is so fast. And those position changes and not letting strings ring, it is freaking tough, I'm not going to lie. But again, just slow practice, get it under your fingers, recognize what the phrase actually is. Alright, so the next phrase is we're going back over to the F sharp. We've got this pretty much a standard pentatonic thing, but freaking fast. Right, so the phrase itself I don't think is too hard, but it's getting up to speed. Now make sure you do get that triplet in there. That's a triplet. One triplet. Alright, so honestly this next riff still just kills me. I have to practice this specifically before I even take on this solo. And it's so annoying that you know it's like even if you get through the rest of the solo unscathed, there's this last lick to trip you up at the very end. Now hopefully it's not the same for you guys, but for me it's just a weird finger twisty type of riff. Right? Now you could legato that, so like hammer on pull off. But I don't know, for me it's almost a little bit more secure to actually pick it. Okay, now on the official transcription, they say he goes down here. Whatever it is. I hear it on the recording, and that's probably what he did, but when I watch the live version, and when I think of the idea of jumping from here to here in that tiny space of time, I personally think that live he's doing it down here. Again, that's what I'm seeing him do on the live DVD of the live scenes from New York, and he actually kind of jumps back up and does some riff again too. But for our purposes, I think let's just start with doing. I think that's going to be like the easiest approach to it, personally. Alright, so wrapping up here, that is a beast of a solo, so don't get down on yourself if it's too challenging for you right now. Just like I say, practice phrase by phrase. You know, the first session or two that you do on this, it's going to be freaking hard, But if you revisit it throughout the day, throughout the week, you will start finding that those phrases start falling under your fingers and they do come faster. Again, I've noticed that with a lot of John Petrucci solos. That it's almost like a phenomenon in a way. But again, there's no doubt that it is a very challenging solo.